because transport is going to be critical in the resurgence of the economy. And the reason I say that is because nakikita na natin, there are this, what we keep talking about supply chain, there are problems that have arisen post-pandemic sa ibang lugar. I don't consider us post-pandemic yet. I think we are still hopefully at the tail end. But nonetheless, nakikita na natin in other countries na yun ang ginagawa, na nagkakaproblema doon sa transport situation. Because COVID changed everything, we tried to go back nung bumubukas ang mga ekonomiya. Sinubukan nating bumalik doon sa dating gawin. Hindi na maaari yun. We have to do it in a different way. And we have to be more creative and more aware of what the future global economy is going to look like. So in terms of oil excise tax, I think we still have to look at that very well. If there is a commensurate, return to somehow deferring the collection of the excise tax, what will be the government needs the money. Mahirap ang gobyerno sa pondo ngayon. The government needs the money. Pero kung talagang makikita naman, may ano naman yan eh. Pag sinabi mo, tanggalin natin yung excise tax o bawasan natin yung excise tax, ano yung magiging effect doon? Talaga bang worth it ba na mawala yung pondo o yung income ng gobyerno? Kasi mas magiging maganda naman ang effect sa ekonomiya and makabawi tayo. So we have to study that. It's still a cost-benefit analysis. It's not simple, but that's what we will have to do. But of course, that will be one of the areas that will be under intense study in the first few weeks, because we really have to see our fiscal policy, how we handle it, and we have to be more analytical in the way that we impose new taxes or withdraw old taxes or amend the tax structure to see that there will be, as I said, a commensurate advantage perhaps in another part of the economy. But kailangan meron naman talagang may balance naman. So kasi pag nawala ka agad dyan, wala naman tayong pangbigay ng tupad, wala na tayong pangbigay ng ayuda, kailangan pa rin ng tao yan. But if the economy is ready, kahit kunin mo yan, may trabaho na, then perhaps we can think about it.
Thank you, MJ. Mr. Ferdinand.
PBBM, sir.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Our debt stands at 13 trillion right now. May pinropose po ang Department of Finance na fiscal consolidation plan that details measures for revenue generation para matugunan tong utang na to. It includes deferment of personal income tax reduction, limiting VAT exemptions, and excise tax. Where do you stand on these tax measures?
I think that's an examination we really have to undertake. I mean, just for what I hear from legal practitioners, we have to codify our tax. Kasi yung tax natin, it has evolved over many administrations. And what I will try to apply is that there will be hindi lang yung kuha tayo dito sa sin tax, kuha tayo dito sa oil, kuha tayo dito sa housing, kuha tayo dito sa cooperative. Hindi, kailangan talaga may plano tayo. So gagawin natin yung plano natin, and the fiscal policy is going to follow that. Now, in my discussions with our legislators yesterday, we are trying to create some fiscal space so that to reduce the load on ordinary citizens, and maybe move the load up, the tax load up, and there are also distribution of wealth implications to that, which are very, very important. It's one of the areas that I think we have to work on very, very hard. The distribution of wealth dito sa Pilipinas has not been very equitable. And so that's something that that the fiscal policy will hope to balance, achieve a better balance. So we must approach all of these things. The economy is a living thing, and you cannot just look at one area without trying to anticipate what the real effect will be for the entire economy and for. So we have to, the point I'm making is that we have to have an economic recovery plan, and the fiscal policy will follow that. What areas will we encourage? What comes out off the top of my mind is MSMEs kagad. Bawasan na natin, or we give them a holiday, tax amnesty, tax holiday. We're studying that now, because that's the only way that I can see. We do microfinancing even in the private sector. We want them to come back because 62% of our employees are in MSMEs. The agriculture also, yung ating ayuda, the fertilizer that we buy, urea, is petroleum-based in terms of pricing, and it's imported. And it has gotten to such a severe situation that there are farmers now who just don't plant. Kasi if urea is at what? 2,000 pesos. Sabi niya, hindi naman kami kikita eh. So, huwag na lang. Di ba? We'll do something else. Mangingisda lang kami, or we'll do something else. And that doesn't bode well for our plans for developing agriculture. So whatever fiscal policy is going to be, whatever changes in fiscal policy that we are going to undertake, it will have to come, we have to examine it we have to think it through properly. So yung mga pabigla-bigla na tinataas, binababa, hindi natin magagawa yun, dahil kung gawin natin yan, it will, if there are too many moving parts, you cannot anticipate what will happen. And so we have to be careful, and there are many variables. Move the variables one by one. Huwag mong sasabay-sabay, kasi then you don't know what's happening. We just followed, I guess, the scientific method. So my approach to the fiscal policy, first, is to codify it, to make it simpler, to make it more understandable, number one. Secondly, is to reduce as much of the tax collections from those who are suffering from the pandemic, the effects of the pandemic. That means MSMEs, agricultural sector, transport, yung mga ganon. So babawasan natin. Let's hope we can raise funds in another area and use it there. So then again, very important to me is the distribution of wealth issue. So that will also be part of the thinking that will obtain when we talk about fiscal policy. So it's difficult for me at this point. I'm trying to answer your question, but it's difficult for me to answer your question because I cannot talk about specifics, because they will all be part of a larger economic plan. Of course, but the general principle that we will apply is to give opportunities to those that have suffered, maybe by lightening the tax liabilities that they are required to pay. But again, we have to see what the effect will be for the rest of the economy, for other sectors of the economy. So yes, fiscal policy is going to, monetary policy is also, now that you mentioned monetary policy is also, I was just watching the news before I came here, marami na talaga nagtataas ng interest rate around the country. So this is what we were talking with BSP President Ben Jokno, if we're going to raise interest rates, if our investment rating will change, kung bababa ba yan, or can we do something to keep it? But he seems optimistic. Um, and to an extent, I share his optimism, and I think we can do it. But we have to be very, very, how do you say? We have to be very circumspect about making sudden changes, because as we've seen, all of these sudden changes have had some unintended consequences in other parts of the, hindi mo na makakalain, may pumuntok doon kasi dito may ginawa ka rito. Like I said, the economy is a living thing, and it's always a work in progress. So we'll continue to examine all of that. Yeah.
Sir, very crucial in revenue generation are the bureaus of customs and internal revenue. My first question, meron na po ba kayong napili o nakausap?
Well, let me put it this way, dami kong aplikante for customs and BIR. But you're right, critical yan. We have to increase our collections both in the BIR, both in customs. Sa customs, marami nag-a-advise sa atin, marami naman na maaaring gawin. We are talking about buying equipment, the ADB, the World Bank has given us much equipment, di masyadong nagagamit. We have to increase that. Also, we have to develop the ports so that the business grows, and from that growth in trade, in shipping, the collections of government will increase. But the efficiency of the Bureau of Customs has to be really seen too. Hindi naman mangyayari yan na nag-iisa. And of course, we've all heard the horror stories about but structurally, we have to approach it in a new way and say that the main job of the Bureau of Customs is to increase their collections through ease of doing business, even just the documentation, and then of course all this new equipment that we can to be able to handle larger increases in volume. So that I think is how we are going to head when it comes to customs. And yes, I have had many applications to head the Bureau of Customs, but I'm sure we will find the right people. I have a fairly good idea of who has been able to show performance. And the BIR, ganun din. What we have to do is make more efficient the entire process. Number one, make it easier for people to understand what the tax structure is. Put people in there. Of course, hindi mo matatanggal pa sa usapan. Let's not pretend na pag pinag-usapan customs at saka BIR, ang daming corruption.
I was going to go there, sir, if I may. Meron ho ba kayong magiging specific marching orders the people you will appoint to these agencies with regard to allegations of corruption?
Well, there's no place for, there should not be any place for corruption. Unfortunately, naging in some areas, naging endemic na talaga yung corruption. You will have to really dig deep. I hope we do not have to do what then Prime Minister Mahathir did, where he said, sige, mag-15-30 lang kayo kasi may tenure sila eh. Mag-15-30 lang kayo, huwag kayong papasok, pagtangko kayo lahat. I hope we don't have to go that far, but I'm willing to. This is too important. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. Corruption, kalimutan na lang natin yung nakaraan. Let's just do it. Huwag natin sasabihin natin, sige, that was not under my watch. Hindi ako namamahala nun. Ngayon ako na namamahala. So wala nang ganyan. At kung meron pang ganyan, habul-habulin talaga namin kayo. At hindi po pwede yan because we will not succeed. The government, the economy in the Philippines will simply not succeed if we cannot collect duties, tariffs, etc. Through the Bureau of Customs, and we do not have good collection on taxes, both at the national and at the local level. Hindi talaga obra. We cannot. The numbers don't. The numbers don't match. So that's why it will be very. It is very, very important, and we have to, at the very least, reduce the corrosive influence of corruption in government as a general rule.
Ms. Eden, on appointments.
Sa DICT po, PBBM, meron na po kayong napipisel kung sinong ilalagay nyo doon. Since sabi niyo po kanina, priority po ninyo yung digitalization.
Yeah, I have already a person there, but we are still trying to put together the plan. Siguro within this week, pwede na namin. Kasi inaayos pa lang namin. Kailangan kasi para sa akin, bago pa tayo mag-nome, maliwanag na kung ano yung kailangan namin gawin. At paano gagawin, ano yung timetable. So yun ang nililiwanag ko pa naman sa ngayon. It really is at this stage, the ICT, it's technical. Ano ba yung kaya natin gawin? Where's the technology now? Who can help us with that technology? So we're trying to figure that out. Because yung digitalization affects every single agency in government, both national and local. And until we do it, yung efficiencies natin, yun, corruption na naman ng maraming sources of abuse. And certainly, yung ease of doing business lang. Yung tao naman, hindi naman dapat papupuntahin ng 20 opisina. You spend 3 days para makuha ng mga pirma na lalapit-lapitan pa ng mga fixer, na kailangan tanggalin natin lahat yun. So, and digitalization will be key to achieve that. So, let us lay it out first between ourselves, and then I will explain to you soon what the role the DICT is expected to play and how it will do it, and who will be in that department.
Doon lang po sa ito yung pinaka-concern ng ating mga mamamayan, yung napabalita na po na maibababa sa 20 pesos ang kada kilo ng bigas.
That's the aspiration.
Paano po natin yung gagawin sa bibigyan?
Ibubuhin natin yung value chain na pinag-uusapan ko sa Kausap ko na yung mga ibang trader. Baka pwede nating i-hold ng ilang buwan yung presyo ngayon. I think we'll be able to do it as a first step. But in the long term, we really have to fix our value chain. That's the only way. Ngayon, ang nagiging problema, one of the problems that is popping up in agriculture, yung edad ng ating mga magsasaka. I'm sure you've all seen the statistics, it's 56, 57, whatever. But that's not a good number, that's too high a number. And unfortunately, ang mga farmer mismo nagsasabi sa kanilang mga anak, huwag kang mag-farming, ang hirap ng buhay na ito. Mag-aral na lang kayo, magtrabaho kayo sa opisina. Kaya kami naghihirap dito para hindi nyo na kailangan gawin ito. And that's why young people are not coming into agriculture. Now, how do we change that? We must employ new technologies. It has to be industrial farming. It has to be, ang dami naman bago. Especially with the advent of global warming. Nakita niyo ba itong taon na ito? Naintindihan niyo ba yung weather? Kung kailan yung tag-araw, kailan yung tag-ulan. Sinasabi ng pag-asa sa atin, tag-araw ngayon, pero panay naman ang ulan. Sinasabi nila, tag-ulan na, hindi naman umuulan. So, talagang masyado na magulo. That's why we need high-tech solutions. And that will bring younger people in. Because we're not talking anymore about traditional farming only. Of course, you will still have to put seeds into the ground. But marami ng bagong technologies that are developed by younger people. And so they can get involved in agriculture again. Like I said, COVID changed everything. We cannot depend on the old system. We cannot depend on on business as usual. That would be a disaster. The pre-pandemic world is never coming back. That is a hard truth that we all have to accept. And what's coming is something that we don't quite know yet, but it's beginning to show what that will be. So in terms of agriculture, we have to move with the times, and we have to be very open to new strategies, new technologies, new techniques, not only in the actual technical part of agriculture, but also in the organization of our agricultural community and our agricultural sector. So, yeah, that's something that we have to deal with. So if the aspiration is 20 pesos, I don't know. I think if we work very hard at it, baka maabot natin yun.
When?
Oh boy, pag nabuo yung ating tinatawag na value chain, we have to do research and development. Marami naman tayong magaling eh. We have to do research and development, find the new varieties, find the new techniques. With the price of fertilizer getting so high, anong mga alternatives natin, organic, etc. And how do we mass produce that? And then we have to bring all these new technologies to the farmer, and we have to teach them how to best take advantage of all of the things that we have discovered. We have to find new ways of production. And agriculture naman, pinag-uusapan, hindi lang bigas yan eh. Hindi lang crops yan eh. Fisheries yan at saka livestock. So lahat yan kailangan natin tignan. And in mind, you should always keep in mind, there must be sufficient food supply. Kailangan may sapat na bigas, kasi yan ang ating meron. We have to also look at protein. Siyempre, livestock, fisheries. Hindi lang naman iisa yan. So, that has to be developed. Now, the good thing about that is that for the Philippines, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Marami naman tayong pupuntahan na magpaturo tayo. Ang nasakit lang dyan is these are the people that studied in UPLB. Na ngayon pupunta natin, paano ba yung pinakabago, pinakamaganda? Yan yung mga nasa IRI noon, nasa field rice. Bumalik na, umuwi na, and they're making a success of agriculture. But, whatever it takes, we will do it.
Thank you, Ms. Eden. Jerry, if you have no more questions on appointments, you can go to food president.
Appointments lang, sir. Balikan ko lang.
Sige.
Magkakaroon ba ng special assistant to the president na position, and who will it might be?
Well, that actually is an existing position already. Special assistant, yes. Well, I suppose we can already see. We've asked Congressman Anton Lagdameo to fill that position. Yeah, because it's very sensitive and very important in the sense that we have worked, we've known each other since he was a child. Hindi na ako child noon, pero since he was young. So he knows me very well. He has been with us, working with me for past 10 years, mga ganon. So in terms of the working relationship, and then, between the two of us, siguro we've already found the modus vivendi. So that should be an easy easy position for him to pick up on.
Sir,
May inside info kaya, ba't alam mo?
ano lang, sir. Sir, yung si Deputy Speaker Marcoleta, what will happen to him? And recently, Vic told us sa media na there's an offer for Professor Clayda Carlos to join your cabinet rank. Anong update sa kanya, sir? Marcoleta and Professor Carlos.
Everybody's still we're still talking about the role. Because ang approach ko naman sa lahat na nare-recommenda o napupunta sa akin is first of all, where do you feel, marami naman nagsasabi kahit saan, basta ilagay mo ako kahit saan. Marurunong naman, magagaling naman. And I always ask them back, I said, where do you feel you will be the most useful? And so all of that, si Kadante Marcoleta, I asked him the same question, and I'm waiting for his answer. But definitely, with his legal prowess, I think that he will be of great use to us. Now, I understand that in his particular situation, meron pa siyang opportunity mag-congressman. Oo, dun sa party list. So, he will have to decide that. That's his decision to make. So, pag-uusapan namin ulit. The professora, of course, we've been in consultation with her and asking her. And again, it's the same question. Where do you feel that you will be the most help? And again, we're waiting for that answer because alam naman natin na marunong naman si professora. She's at least especially in terms of foreign policy and international politics, talaga maraming maitutulong.
Solgen, sir. Sino Solgen mo?
Sorry?
Solicitor General.
Sa?
Solgen. OSG.
Which one?
Solicitor General, sir.
Social welfare. Huh? Solgen. Oh, okay. Hindi ko naintindihan. Okay. Marami din eh. Ang daming magagaling. We are lucky in that marami nga na who are some of the legal luminaries have expressed their willingness to join the government, and that's one of the offices that we're talking about. That's going to be very important. I'll talk to. We will. Hindi pa finalized. Hindi pa finalize ang sino magsosolve dyan.
Do you have a question on food prices? Matapos na tayo. Okay.
Isa ho sa mga immediate na problema haharapin ng inyong administrasyon ay ang sinasabing food crisis ng Department of Agriculture. In fact, just this week, laman po ng balita yung kakulangan sa patatas. And then, ang sabi ng Philippine Chamber of Agriculture and Food, maaring last quarter po ng taong ito ay maramdaman natin ang husto itong food shortage dahil sa taas ng presyo ng fertilizer, farm inputs, mataas na presyo ng trigo. Ano ho ang inyong mga concrete plans para masiguro ang sapat at abot kayang pagkain sa lahat ng Pilipino?
We have to just increase production, and baka mapilitan pa rin tayo mag-import. The importation was forced on us because our production, the problem is that the production was not sufficient. Since the production was not sufficient, to keep the prices down to an affordable level, we have to import. And nasa crisis tayo, we're in an emergency situation. So we may have to continue to do that. But in my view, not only for import substitution, I think we really have to help the agricultural sector. In the immediate future, yung mga inputs, kailangan nating tignan what can the government do to support the inputs. The biggest component now is urea. And again, exactly as you mentioned, 2,000 pesos, hindi nila kaya talaga. So maybe there is a way that we can come to an agreement with some other countries, not to buy in bulk or to somehow defer payment, all of these things that we will have to do because it's a crisis. So we have to bring down the price of inputs if we are going to increase production. But we cannot just look at, again, business as usual. We have to really find new ways of growing food. We have to find new ways for the livestock. We have to find new ways of fisheries, both coastal and inland. There are many opportunities there. So I think that's something that we must pursue. But again, as I told you, in the immediate future, we have to support the farmers, and the problems with the inputs now we cannot change immediately. But immediately what we can do, as I said, is to find sourcing of the inputs that again we'll have to import. I mean, it hurts to say it. It hurts to think it, but we are in an emergency. Napabayaan talagang agri.
May pondo po ba tayo para sa pag-aangkat?
Sa
Pag-aangkat.
I think we'll be able to do it. Hindi naging maliit na bagay yung gera sa Ukraine. Because doon tayo hindi yung wheat na sinasabi, hindi yan yung hindi yung problema yung para sa tinapay, yung wheat sa feeds. Yun ang nagiging problema natin. So these are events that are completely beyond our control. So we have to find other ways. So can we import somewhere else? Can we make an arrangement somewhere else? Like we did with oil in the 70s. Na kinausap natin yung mga oil producers. And sinabi natin, bigyan nyo naman kami ng magandang option. And maybe we will have to do that in the meantime for the agricultural inputs. Pero kailangan talagang paspasan lahat yung mga research and development, lahat ng yung sistema ng pautang. I think that's one of the areas that we really want to look at. Unfortunately, Land Bank has converted itself not into an agricultural bank anymore. It really operates as a commercial bank. So maybe we can return those lending institutions that are supposed to be supportive of the agricultural industry, supportive of farmers, back to its original brief na kung saan naman napunta. We have to return many of the functions of agencies in government to what they are supposed to be, but they have turned into something else. Like NFA was never formed to import, quite the contrary. NFA was formed to stabilize prices, and sana ibalik natin dun. But again, I don't want to sugarcoat the problem. The problem is serious. It will take, in the immediate future, I think we will be able to find palliatives, yung mga baka para naman makatulong lang tayo for now. But those cannot be the solutions, the long-term solutions. We have to find long-term solutions. And there's nothing more. We have to go back to I know I keep saying the phrase, but that really is where we're headed, is the value chain of agriculture. From the very beginning of it, to production, to processing, to mechanization, to credit, all the way to retail. We have the basic elements in place. We just have to return everyone back to what their function what function is needed by the agricultural sector from them.
President.
Sir, what about how do you intend po to resolve the high prices of petroleum products? Are you planning to buy back petrol? Sinasabi po ni Mr. Ramon Ang, willing naman siyang ibenta ulit yung petrol under your administration. And then yung OPSF, ano po ang inyong plano? Ibalik ba yun?
Well, first of all, we cannot control prices. This is the nub of the problem. It's beyond us. Hindi tayo price giver, price taker tayo sa oil market. So, kung ano ang mangyari, when OPEC decides to do one thing, OPEC decides to do something, we just have to accept it and we just have to take it. What we did, as I said, but if I remember correctly, and actually I was part of the effort, was when the 1973 oil crisis hit. What we tried to do was to make more beneficial arrangements. Like I remember, I was sent on a mission by my father together with then Secretary Velasco of Energy, and we discussed with Saudi Arabia and all the other oil-producing countries that we buy oil from to lengthen the payback period from, I think it was 90 days to 180 days. And we were able to manage that, which medyo talagang naging mas maganda ang sitwasyon, because also we were very worried at that time of our foreign reserves. So that helped very much in the situation, in the management of the oil crisis in 1973. I think that we can also consider what is happening now as another oil crisis. And that's why we will see if we can do that. Marami naman tayong kaibigan na siguro naman handang tumulong. At I think that the relationship that has been formed with countries in the Middle East, oil producers in the Middle East, by our OFWs, will help us, because meron na silang experience sa Pilipino at marami na tayong, we have many dealings already with them. Maybe we can open these negotiations. And on the ground here, again, I was at the very beginning, even before Ukraine, we were watching the oil and gas prices just going up and up and up and up. And I proposed, I said, why do we not subsidize the importation of all energy products? And we did the numbers, and the truth of the matter is we cannot afford it. We cannot do that. So we have to choose the sectors. I've mentioned transport before. Is one because it's the first hit, but of course, you know, pag pinag-usapan din si presyo ng langis ay naapektuhan lahat. But I think we will just have to choose the areas that we can support, that we can afford to support, because of course we'd like to support all of them, but we, as I said, we cannot afford it. So we will have to find different ways, a more focused approach doon sa mga talagang na malaki ang component ng kanilang cost of doing business, malaki ang component ng presyo ng langis. Iba-iba naman yan sa iba't ibang sektor. And then also there's a time element to all of this, na yung iba tinamaan na kaagad. Yung iba baka 6 months down the road pa, baka meron pa tayong saka na natin, huwag na muna natin i-prioritize yun, dito na muna tayo sa tinamaan na. So, and then, kasama dyan sa analysis na yan, sino ba talaga yung kailangan natin para buhayin natin ang ekonomiya? So, mag-focus din tayo doon. Baka doon tayo tutulong para bumulusok ang economic activity doon sa area para matulungan ang ating economic recovery.
Right. This is our last round. We have time for only 2 more questions.
Oh,
Mr.
that was fast.
Yes, sir.
Extend natin, sir. If you want. Sir, sa kuryente, ERC Chair De Banadera nag-suggest na tanggalin daw sana po ninyo ang 12% VAT on the generation charge at ang buwisan is yung distribution charge lang para bumaba po yung singil sa kuryente. Your thoughts on that, sir?
That's one of the things we're looking at. Meron talagang pwedeng we in each, even on the spot market, in the transmission charge, there are areas that pwede pa nating ibaba. So again, I've been talking to some of the producers, yung ating sa energy production side natin. Willing naman sila, naintindihan naman nila that this is an emergency situation. And of course, you mentioned now the ERC, we have to be very strict in enforcing IPIRA. But beyond that, we also have to look at possible amendments to EPIRA. Dahil medyo na-outdated na yung ibang provisions sa EPIRA. Kasi nagbago na yung sistema. Just the division between production, transmission, and distribution, that was EPIRA was supposed to take care of that. Pero iba yung nangyari. So we have to look into that law. But yeah, meron kaming nakikita, baka may makuha dito, baka may makuha riyan, baka may makuha dito para ibaba kagad ang presyo ng gasolina, ng crudo, ng gas. When it comes to energy, it's more or less in line with the rest of the world. So it's in the system. There are problems that are inherent in the system, the way it has evolved. So kailangan talaga natin balikan. And the key there will be EPIRA. And we already have a team doing just that, looking to see where we can reduce the price of petroleum goods, number one. And what changes we have to make in terms of legislation, in terms of policy, to make the whole system more efficient, despite the fact that the prices of oil keep going up. We may there is the other issue when it comes to energy, in that we have made commitments internationally to reduce our dependence on, first of all, coal, and to replace it with renewables. But when we first tried to do that, right after COP26, if you remember, the whole world tried to do it, wala palang kapalit yung coal. Hindi pa ready yung renewables. So, tignan natin yun. We have to also determine the mix of renewables. The renewables to traditional. Diyan na pumapasok ang usapan ng nuclear. Because if you look at statistics, look at it, tanggalin muna natin yung mga politika. Tingnan natin talaga ang data. Nuclear remains to be the cleanest and cheapest way to produce energy. The problem is that the lead time for any power plant, not only nuclear, minimum yata 5 years. So matagal yan. So in the transition, we have to find another source, a cleaner source of energy. So maybe gas will be the transition. Yung gas is cleaner than coal. It is as clean as it's going to get. But until we are able to sufficiently increase our power production through renewables, we have to find the pantawid from purely traditional to the new mix of renewables and traditional. So energy is hard. Talaga, ako aminin ko sa inyo, energy is hard. We really the world situation, the local situation, the way that we have evolved our systems, it can be quite complicated. So we have to really come up with some good strategies there. But in general, we have begun to see areas where that may potential na dyan tayo kukuha, may baba natin ang presyo ng singil sa kuryente. Okay?
Last question, Ferdinand.
Yeah, sir, on foreign policy.
Okay.
Incursions, even spying sa internal waters ng Pilipinas. Ano ho ang magiging position ninyo with regard to asserting our sovereignty in the region? What is your position on the arbitral ruling, and how will you enforce it?
Well, in terms of sovereignty, there is no wiggle room there. Our sovereignty is sacred. We will not compromise it in any way. We are a sovereign nation with a functioning government, So that we do not need to be told by anyone how to run our own country. So that's essentially sovereignty, self-determined in the Philippines. So again, there is no room for negotiation there. It is sacred and inviolable. So that is my approach to Philippine sovereignty. I have already said this before, considering in the West Philippine Sea that there have been these conflicts, we will not allow a single square, and we even make it smaller, a single square millimeter of our maritime, coastal, and up to our 200 kilometers rights to be trampled upon. And how do we do this? We strengthen our. We are talking when let's not traipse around it. We're talking about China. And how do we do that? We talk to China consistently with a firm voice. And we say that hindi naman natin pwedeng girahin. At gusto ba natin gawin? Manggigera pa tayo ngayon, papasok pa tayo sa gera. That's the last thing we need right now. So we have to continue to discuss with them the conflicting claims that we have with China and that China has with other members of ASEAN. And I think ASEAN is still going to be a very critical part of that discussion, of that. But nonetheless, we also have to continue to pursue bilateral contact and communication with China. In fact, this is what I mentioned when I spoke to President Xi. When he called me to congratulate me on winning the election. I immediately went and I said that we have to continue to talk about this. We cannot be allowed to. This cannot be allowed to fester and to become more severe in terms of a problem between our two countries. So that's why in foreign policy, the Americans now, of course, have a very strong global interest, strategic interest in the region with the rise of China and their view that the West Philippine Sea is a critical part of the trade routes, which it is, and that's why it's so important. Trade routes for shipping in the region. So we are a small player amongst very large giants in terms of geopolitics. So we have to ply our own way. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I do not subscribe to the old thinking of the Cold War, where we had the spheres of influence, where you were under the Soviet Union or you were under the United States. I think that we have to find an independent foreign policy where we are friends with everyone. It's the only way. The closest part of China to my province, Ilocos Norte, is 600 kilometers away. We have to be good neighbors, and we ask them to be good neighbors to us as well. It was of mutual benefit to our countries. Now, the role that the United States is going to play, well, we define that role very simply. It comes from our traditional relationship with the United States, which has been very strong and very advantageous to both of us, both the United States and the Philippines, over the past 100 or so years. So that's how we define that. So we must maintain that balance. I think we are not. I don't think we are the only country that's having to do that. And again, the partnerships that we make within the region, ASEAN primarily, are going to be of critical importance when it comes to that. So we have to make those. As I told the ambassadors when they came, not only economically but geopolitically, as we emerge from the pandemic and the crisis that it brought, we have to form alliances and partnerships because no country can do this, can recover or can change foreign policy on their own. Can change the geopolitical situation on their own. And that's why we have to forge partnerships. And those are the partnerships that will keep things stable. And that's my belief and that's my approach.
Last na lang po yung arbitral ruling. Patuloy po ba natin ito igigit?
Ay, hindi na natin. Nasa atin na yung arbitral ruling. So we will, of course, we have a very important ruling in our favor, and we will use it to continue to assert our territorial rights. It's not a claim; it is already our territorial right, and that is what the arbitral ruling can do to help us.
Ma'am?
We have
Last.
10 minutes. Okay.
Sir, may request kasi ang ating mga kababayan nanonood. Meron daw po ba kayong mensahe sa kay President Duterte na inyo pong papalitan sa pwesto, sir?
Well, yung mga pinapag-usapan namin, bago pa nag-eleksyon, ay sinasabi niya, basta itong mga bagay na ito, ituloy mo. Please, that is the request that it's so important to him. And it's still, siyempre, yung kanyang priority has always been anti-drug problem. And of course, you have to...
Sir, sorry, when did this meeting take place, if I may? Before the election?
There were several, actually. It's not just a single
And this
one.
happened when you were already the front runner in the surveys. Tama po ba?
Not the first few. Wala pa ba?
So more than once po?
Yeah, oo. Pinuntahan ko siya. Sabi ko, how do you want to do this? Ako na lang ang natirang kandidato sa administration side. Pwede pa tayo magtulungan, ganun, with the PDP, etc. Anyway, that was, but ang kanya, sinasabi niya, one thing that he was very assertive about was that ituloy mo yung anti-drug syndicate na sinimulan ko. Do it your own way. He really said that. Do it your own way. Palitan mo, gawin mo yung gusto, pero wag mong iiwanan yan dahil kawawa ang kabataan natin. Talagang nasisira ang mga buhay nila. So that, I fully appreciate what he said. And of course, the drug problem in the country continues to be a problem. And so we must continue to look that way. So foreign policy, of course, the president, si PRRD, has a very, slightly unorthodox approach. But again, balance is the same. So we agree on that. In terms of the economy, the last time we spoke, he said they were discussing yung increase from 200 to 500 sa ayuda. So they were talking about it. He turns to me and said, sorry na lang kung ikaw yung susunod, uubusin ko yung pera, pero kailangan na talaga ng tao.
So this is a cabinet meeting?
No, it was just a very casual discussion. But he was, si PRD, he likes to throw it out there to see how people react and to see how it should be changed. And I was just a bystander. I was just watching. And so that talagang tama rin naman siya. I don't think he had a choice. Na talagang kailangan pa rin ng tao, kawawa masyadong tao. So those were the areas that we specifically spoke about. Yeah, so that's...
Will he play a role in your government, sir?
I'm sorry?
Will he play a role in your government?
If he wants to.
Drug czar, or play drug czar, something like that.
If he wants to.
So it's a standing offer from... The president-elect?
No, he has not. We have not talked about it. But I'm open to anyone who is able to help, in the government. So, matagal na kaming magkaibigan ni PRRD, nung mayor siya pa, long time ago. So, I'm sure if he wants to play a part, sasabihin naman niya sa akin. Certainly open to all of that.
So what about other presidential calls po? Nag-reach out na ba sa inyo? Open ba yung administration sa mga nakalaban ninyo na mabigyan ng posisyon? Competent naman po sila?
Marami na. Meron nga yung sinasabi. Meron mga, hindi ko na nababanggitin kung sino, pero ilan dyan nagsabi, lumabang kami sa inyo, siguro wala na kaming pag-asa dyan sa gobyerno. Sabi, hindi, huwag nyo, politika lang yan. trabaho na tayo. Okay lang yun. For me, that's part of it. And that's finished. The people have spoken, the decision has been made, so let's work on that basis. And again, ang aking criterion talaga sa kukunin namin, kung sino yung marunong, sino yung magaling doon sa area na yun, at handang tumulong. What else do you need? Yan, di ba? And I was right before when I said one of the hardest parts of picking these experts and yung pinakamagaling is that because they are successful, maganda na yung buhay nila eh. Sasabihin, pumasok ka sa politika, ang gulo-gulo ng politika. But ang dami talagang willing dahil Pilipino sila. Nagmamahal sila sa Pilipinas.
Maraming salamat, Ben.
Thank you.
Eden, MJ, Ivan, maraming
Thank you,
salamat po.
PBBM.
Maraming
Thank you,
salamat.
Secretary Prisky.
Ano yan? Ano yan?
Alice also from Alice on our Anmore. At syempre, I myself,